There's a moment in every chosen one's journey when the world realizes, hold on, they know something they're not telling us. That's the moment everything changes. Not because you exposed anyone, not because you confronted anyone, and not because you made some dramatic announcement, but because people finally felt the depth of what you carry. It's the quiet panic that rises when someone realizes the person they underestimated has been 10 steps ahead the entire time. And here's a psychological fact. Human beings fear what they cannot measure. When people sense that you understand motives, patterns, and truths they thought they hid perfectly, their brain does something funny. It defaults into talk mode. Suddenly, everyone becomes a commentator, an analyst, an investigator, and a reporter on you. It's not because you're unpredictable. It's because you're too predictable. You keep seeing the real story behind their scripted behavior, and that alone makes your existence feel like a threat to their comfort. People talk because they know you noticed what they pretended not to do. People whisper because they remember what you never mentioned. People gossip because they can feel that you've already connected the dots they hoped were scattered. And the irony, you're not even trying. You're just paying attention, which honestly should have been their first clue. A chosen one paying attention is like a detective with a spiritual Wi-Fi connection. It picks up everything. Now they're unsettled, restless, and low-key stressed because your silence didn't equal ignorance. It equaled awareness. And awareness is something people can't outrun, no matter how fast they rearrange their stories. They know you know more than you're saying, and that's exactly why your name hasn't left their mouth since you left the room. So buckle up, because in this video, we're going to break down exactly why people can't stop talking about you, and why your knowledge, intuition, and perception have become the unspoken headline in their private conversations. Number one, they're terrified because you see the layer beneath the layer. People talk about you because they finally realize they can't hide anything from you. Not their tone, not their intentions, not the shift in their energy when they thought you weren't paying attention. You don't just hear words, you notice the cracks in between them. You don't just observe actions, you recognize the motive sitting under the action, and that alone puts you in a category most people aren't prepared to deal with. What unsettles them is how naturally you do it. You don't snoop, you don't pry, you don't dig. You simply notice. That noticing is powerful because it makes people feel as if you're reading a script they never meant to share. They feel exposed in your presence, not because you call them out, but because you see them clearly without trying. For some people, clarity is more frightening than confrontation. They talk because your perception interrupted their performance. They had a role they wanted you to believe, a version of themselves they carefully presented. But the real version slipped through, and you caught it instantly. You caught the small hesitation before they lied. You caught the sudden friendliness after they needed something. You caught the forced smile when their intentions weren't genuine. Most people miss these moments. You don't. And they know you don't. That's why their voice shakes a bit around you. That's why they over-explain things you never asked about. That's why they rehearse conversations in their head before talking to you. They're not preparing for a discussion. They're preparing a defense. The truth is, you operate on a level of awareness that makes dishonesty uncomfortable. You see the layer beneath the layer, the motive beneath the behavior. And because you don't rush to react or expose, your silence becomes a mirror. They don't know what you're thinking, but they're painfully aware you're thinking something. So the talking begins. Not because you did something wrong, but because you saw too much. Not because you're unpredictable, but because your intuition is too accurate for their comfort. People talk the most when they feel the most seen. And you've been seeing people with clarity they didn't expect you to survive with. Number two, Your intuition has receipts they wish didn't exist. People can't stop talking about you because deep down they know you caught things they thought were perfectly hidden. You didn't argue, you didn't confront, you didn't get into a back and forth trying to prove what you felt. You simply watched, understood, and stored the truth. And that unsettles people in a way they can't shake off. Your intuition doesn't just sense energy. It remembers details, patterns, shifts, and motives with uncomfortable accuracy. What really bothers them is that you never needed proof the way most people do. You saw a small change in their behavior and knew exactly what it meant. You caught the inconsistency in their story and knew what they were trying to cover. You noticed the sudden kindness that only appeared when they needed something. These may seem like small things to others, but to you, they clicked together like puzzle pieces. You quietly connected dots they hoped you'd never even see. The part that scares them the most is that you're not loud about any of it. You don't run around exposing people. You don't try to embarrass them. Your calmness is what keeps them awake at night. They know you know something, but they don't know how much you know. They don't know which moment exposed them. They don't know which gesture gave them away. And they definitely don't know how long you've been aware of the truth. Your intuition kept receipts, silent, accurate, and undeniable. And the moment they realized that, their confidence cracked. They became more defensive, more talkative, more eager to explain things you never questioned. They're trying to rewrite a history you already decoded a long time ago. They're hoping your silence means you didn't understand what happened, when the reality is you understood too much. Your intuition is the one thing they couldn't outrun. It didn't scream. It didn't accuse. It simply exposed everything by recognizing what their behavior tried to disguise. And now they talk about you because they're scared of the version of themselves you've already seen, the version they hoped you'd never have evidence of.